say this, like the competition for like top Korean schools, it's ridiculous. It's more ridiculous than
trying to get into Harvard or
yeah.
Ivy League.
If you look at the numbers, like just like the pure admissions numbers, they're way more competitive.
Wow, that's so it's so sad because like so now that I bring it up again, but after watching that drama Sky Castle, have you watched? The
I haven't.
Maybe I'm the only one that likes Korean dramas, but Sky is short for the 3 top colleges or universities in Korea, right? And so, without spoiling it, like everyone wants to go to Seoul Uide, right? So like Seoulde, but like the what do you call it? The medicine or the medical field at Seoulde, right? That's kind of like the creme de la creme, the upper echelon of smart kids, right? And so, to what lengths do these moms go? I mean, you have dealt with a bunch of students and their parents, right? Have you either heard or been through some kind of crazy parents?
I've been pretty lucky, I think, in my experience. I haven't really dealt with too many moms that are like way out there. But I'll say this, in my experience, there's a huge cultural difference between moms who send their kids to like international schools and boarding schools and the ones who are strictly trying to train their kids to aim for like Sky or let's be more like Seoulde. And even within Sky, like in our mind, we think it's like Harvard, Princeton, Yale, and it's not. It's not like that.
What do you mean?
Okay, I'll tell you a little anecdote and to illustrate. This was about maybe 10 years ago, and I had a student. Where did she go to school? She went to Daewon Waegol, and which was a really good school, and she was majoring in German, I think.
German.
And she was like, "Hey, Sam, wish me luck. I'm gonna take the sunong, right?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, you know what? If you get into Sky, 맛있는 거 사줄게, right?"
Right.
And she scoffed at me. She was like, "Sky? Like, do you know what percent of my school gets into Sky?" And she sent me the paper of like the previous year's admission. 90% of
that school
at least that particular year. This is more than it was by 2003 or 4, right? And it was a huge percentage of kids got into those schools. And she goes, "I'm going to get in."
Wow.
So save your lunch or dinner until I get into Seoulde.
Oh, wow.
So what happened that year was she got into Yonsei, but she still took a year off.
Because she wanted to get into Seoulde.
To take the test again so that she can get into Seoulde.
Wow.
And she did. She took a year off, she studied, and she took it again and got in. But that just kind of illustrates like how much of a difference that school makes.
As opposed to like other schools that probably don't have that much success rate, right?
Yeah.
It's funny though. I could imagine you just going when she didn't get in the first time. You're like, yes, I didn't have to buy her anything, but just saw her save some money.
No, because you know what I mean. Like if someone gets to Princeton, you're like, what a failure. Like no, like no one thinks that. I was like, or if someone gets to Princeton, Yale, and not Harvard, like very few people. I can't think of anyone looking at those people as like, man. Too bad.
Whack.
When you first moved here 15 years ago, right? So, did you come here to specifically teach? To be
when I first moved here, I didn't even have a job lined up. I had nothing planned. Like I had pretty much I was like a year out of college, and at that time, I was thinking about becoming like a public school teacher, and at that time, I couldn't work in the districts that I wanted to work in.
In the States.
Yeah, in the States. So it was either like some kind of inner city, like Dangerous Minds kind of gig.
Oh, yeah.
that I could get, or it was going to be somewhere like in Nebraska,
right?
You know, or Idaho.
You didn't want to go save a ghetto? You didn't want
some Indian reservation in like Spokane. I don't know, something like that, right? And I was like, ooh, I don't know if I'm ready for that. You know what? Before I venture into that, I'm going to live in Korea for 6 months, maybe a year.
Just to get away and maybe...
Just to live here, just to have the experience. Because,
yeah.
I had vacationed here during the summers, during summer breaks.
Oh, you had? Okay.
But I had never like really like experienced Korea as like an independent person.
So you didn't really go knowing that there were a lot of educational opportunities.
I did. I just didn't prepare myself
okay.
by landing one before I got here.
I remember around the same time then, because in college, my senior year, my buddies, I had two friends. Oh, I only had two friends, but they both applied to teach at Hakwons here in Korea. So this was like 2000, 2001, and they were two white guys, and we all applied to the same program. And they weren't any smarter than I was. We were all like very coming on at the same level.
You guys were equally dumb?
Yeah, exactly. And so they got in easily, but they rejected me. And then, but they actually told me that, you know, we want your friends more because
they're white.
They're more in, they were more in demand.
That was a big thing. I think in the early aughts. That sounds weird to say.
The early aughts?
Yeah, okay.
But in the early 2000s, a lot of the big Hakwons in Seoul, they wanted white faces to go with their brand. Because when moms look at them, they're like, oh, that's a native speaker. Whereas like Kyopo's was kind of like, if you were a Kyopo, even though like you spoke fluent English, your face didn't match like the, what they were trying to sell.
Yeah, man. I mean,
discrimination in like a weird.
That's why Kyopos have it rough, right? Because like in the States, like we're to them we're Chinese, right? Just plain and simple, right? And then here we look like them, but our we might have grown up similarly to a lot of foreign, like white people or whatever race from the States, But there's that thing where I know that they still say. They prefer like a white person or a black person, or basically it says in the descriptions native speaker.
Yeah.
But that don't mean I'm a native speaker, but that don't mean me, and so it kind of sucks that there's that kind of, I don't want to say discrimination, but that kind of filter here.
Yeah, I don't know if it's so much true now because when I got recruited to a company called CDI, they were actually particularly looking for Kyopos, like Kyopos teachers, because the CEO at that time, he was like, what stake do these like Caucasian American and Canadians have in this country? They don't have anything, right? They're just going to come here, party for a year, try to make a little bit of money, and they're gonna leave, right? So like the training we give them, it's not gonna last very long. And he had the insight that there's so many Kyopos here that are doing it, and if we train them, they could really have a stake in this country, like in training the leaders of this country. He was very idealistic. But I remember it was I don't want to say strict policy, but it was kind of, pretty much everyone who taught at that place at that time, everyone was either like American Canadian Kyopo, or they were Korean. And
speaking English? I mean, like teaching English?
Dude, you know what's funny? Like a lot of these Hakwons, especially the ones that do test prep.
Yeah.
Right? All their teachers are Korean.
Yeah.
And they teach in Korean.
Yeah, I met someone on Tinder, and she said she was an English teacher. But then when I met her, her English was atrocious. And I was like, what are you teaching? And she's like, I teach the sunung. And I said, oh, okay. So you're teaching how to take the test, but you can't convert. She can't, me and her, I had to speak to her in Korean the whole time because we couldn't really get along in English.
Yeah, so a lot of these teachers, their fluency was not very good, but their reading comprehension skills were excellent, right? So like, even I learned a lot from them, ironically, right? Because, when we read, usually we just read something straight through, like the way we read a book, like just straight prose, right? But they were like, no, you waste so much time doing that. Here's how you find the main idea of the passage, right? And just focus on that.
Really?
And that way, just by a few little tricks, you know where to spot like the main idea in the passage. And it's not about the content or of the passage anymore. It's just about like hacking it in a way where you find the most important ideas in it.
Wow.
And you get the right answer. It's about getting the right answer.
That's a completely different thing. This is just reading the passage and understanding its organization. And once you get to the questions, that's a whole different animal, because then you have to go into what are the question types. And if you know what the question types are, then like you'll know what the answer should be.
Goodness.
Wow.
So you're learning how to take the test.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're not learning the language per se. So you can get a perfect score in the English section of the sunung and still not be like a.
But you wouldn't understand, like if you watch a episode of Arrested Development, you wouldn't understand what's going on.
Oh, that for sure. Yeah. Because Korean, American comedies are so idiosyncratic.
Yeah.
And they have so many cultural references.
Yeah.
And just the language itself is so idiomatic that you could be the perfect student and everything will be lost on you.
Yeah, Danny and I were talking about this because I'm obsessed with the show The Office, and that's like the biggest show on Netflix in the U.S.
Yeah.
But it's not available in Korea. But we were thinking none of it would really translate in Korea. It's hard for us to even understand all the the references in that show. So I don't know. We're going.
Yeah, I don't know if it would translate.
You know what's also interesting? I one of the stand-up comedians, he went to a college in Korea called Unist, and it's like a poor man's version of KAIST, and so everything was in English. He said. So the lectures, even like the group projects, you had to speak in English, right? So he thought that when he graduated that he would be able to be pretty proficient in the language. But what he became proficient in is not speaking and being able to work without talking to anybody. So that's what because he recently went to the U.S. just to visit, and he was like, "Hyung, I don't understand anything that was going on," And so yeah, there's something about the way that they teach English here. It's not to be proficient per se, I think, but it's more along the lines of just getting by or getting through it.
No, we're good at tests.
Yeah,
you give us a system, and Koreans will hack it.
Yeah, and
find a way, the most efficient way to get to the right answer. But yeah, that definitely does not translate into plugging yourself into some kind of working environment and being able to communicate effectively.
But you've worked at a handful of hakwons, right? You didn't stay at the same place forever, right?
No. So I worked at this place, CDI, for a couple of years, and I taught a lot for just the first year. And then after that, I pretty much was in charge of just product development and training instructors. So I got to see a lot of the infrastructure of how that place ran and how all the research was developed and stuff like that. And then I just took a year off, and quite accidentally, I kind of got into teaching SAT.
Okay.
Because the demand of people, kids going to study in the U.S.? Was that a huge? Has it stayed pretty steady, would you say, or has that gone fluctuated in terms of kids wanting to study in the States?
Well, it's not a huge number, like compared to like the amount of kids who are here. So it's a very niche market.
Sure.
So no, I don't think it's fluctuated that much.
Okay. But I'm assuming that they have to be somewhat well off, right?
They do have to be well off
to send them to UAC like that, right? According to a report recently, Korea ranks number 3 in Asia in terms of sending out their students to the U.S. Obviously, number 1 is China, and number 2 is India, and number 3 is Korea. So clearly, China and India are going to be number 1 and 2 because there's just so many people, right? But apparently, last year, almost 95,000 kids went to study in the U.S.
From Korea.
Yes. And so I'm like, wow. I mean, that means that the majority of them have to have some sort of come from a somewhat well-off family, right? To do that?
Yeah, to go through what we recommend, it can't be done through you would have to have some means to do it.
So it's kind of Sky Castle then, right? Because, meaning like they come from well-off families, and
oh, definitely. In terms of like the socioeconomic background of some of these parents, for sure, for sure. Like we've definitely had like chaebol clients.
Really?
Oh yeah.
And SATs, it's really important part of that. Is that like really important for them to do well on that?
It's not nearly as important as Suneung is to like the admissions process, because Suneung is it.
Right.
It is the thing.
Yeah. So there's no other things like extracurricular activities or like, but for colleges in the States, I mean, yeah, the SATs are important, the GPA is important, but there are other things like, I'm the captain of the whatever team, or, I was, like.
No, in Korea it doesn't really matter, because in Korea, if you have any fantasy of becoming like an athlete, that pretty much implies that you've given up on academics, and because you got to focus so much time on that sport that there's no way you'll have time to compete academically. In the States, it's so different because just the culture is so different, and I don't want to say that. I think when we were going to college, colleges were looking more for very well-rounded students. Yeah. Someone who like plays sports, you play an instrument, like you're on a debate team, or like a good
extracurricular,
a lot of extracurriculars.
Yeah.
These days, schools are looking for very focused students, like specialists.
Even in the States?
Especially in the States.
Oh, really?
But the difference is that like you still have to do well academically, and you could be a football star, and if you're a football star and you excel academically, then like that you can get in anywhere.
Right.
And it could be something weird too, right? Like I don't know, like
like robotics, like like the robotic competitions where you build robots or stuff like that.
Now.
That's not weird. That's big.
Yeah.
My nephew does that. It's kind of a huge thing. I didn't even know it didn't exist when we were in school.
Yeah, we didn't have cool stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, I in my application, like some of the extracurriculars was I'm a regular stand-up comic at the Laugh Factory.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Man.
And like little things like that so I think the people were like, wait, what? Like, what is this like high school college kid? You know what I mean? Like going into college, and he's like a regular at the Laugh Factory. That's kind of nutty to them, right? And so I think that helped me a lot in terms of.
No, it probably did.
Yeah. But I don't think it'll help now. If a college or a high school kid went, some extracurricular activities, or I'm a regular at this comedy club, and
no, now what was stereotypically good when we were like applying to schools, it would be white noise,
right?
Like if you were just kind of on the varsity team,
right,
in orchestra,
right,
and you had like one leadership position,
yeah,
and you had like a pretty relatively high SAT score,
mm-hmm.
you're pretty much just like every Asian.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that actually works against you in like the top tier schools, because you're basically a caricature. Not a caricature. You're basically just, that another Asian kid.
Yeah, you don't stand out.
Yeah.
It's like a
Nah, not at all.
white noise, right?
Now you need to like be the, I don't want to say the anti-Asian, but maybe you have to be like gay Chinese. What's a weird instrument?
Oboe.
The oboe. What is that thing that Jinsu played? What was that?
The
thing?
lap steel.
Yeah. Like
you got to be a gay Chinese gut bucket player, or bluegrass gut bucket player, or something like that. But something that kind of is off-brand, like off-color for the rest of the Asians.
I remember in my college, I only applied to a couple of schools, but I went to an arts high school. I went to LaGuardia, the Fame High School, right? So, but I didn't want to do anything in art, so I didn't apply to art colleges. So in my applications, I put in like the songs I wrote. Like I put like a stack of songs that I wrote. I wrote like poems, stuff like that. Remember, I didn't have that many extracurricular activities, but I was on the varsity volleyball team because it's an art school. Like we're all like not athletes, so we didn't have a JV team. So it was easy to get those, like to if you needed that on your list of things that it was easy to get onto a varsity team.
Did you guys have a Letterman jacket?
They gave us not the jackets, but they gave us the patches that we can iron onto a jacket. So,
there's no uniformity then, though.
I still have those patches.
Oh, really?
Because I just didn't know what to iron it onto, nor did I want to. Like, I didn't have any pride in my volleyball team.
Why, because y'all didn't win?
Oh, we were terrible. We were just kind of like, let's get it over with so we could put on our college application.
No, but the thing is, like, as a kid, I wanted to be an NBA basketball player, right? And yes, that's usually the response when I say that. But the thing was, I was this height since I was 12, right? And so at 12, I was like one of the taller kids, so I was dominating these 12-year-old fools, right? But then everyone outgrew me, and I got sad because that's a dream that, I could have been the Jeremy Lin before Jeremy Lin.
Jeremy Lin went to Harvard.
I know, but screw the Harvard, screw the Harvard part. We're talking about the NBA, baby. But I stopped growing, and it disheartened my father because he's a huge basketball fan, and he's like 6'1", right? So he thought my son's gonna at least be a 6-footer, right? And when I stopped growing, he was like, "All right, you gotta study hard, man."
Your dad was 6'1" and your mother was
like 4'8".
4'8". So somewhere in the middle.
Yeah,
I was like that too. My dad's 5'11". And also when I was 12, I've been the same height since 5th grade.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was in 5th grade, I was taller than everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what made it worse was my pediatrician at the time. He specifically told me, it's like, Sean, at this rate, you'll be like 6'4".
Whoa.
By the time you're fully grown. And you don't tell a kid that.
Yeah.
You can't tell a kid that.
Start bragging to other kids. Right? I mean, I was 5'10" when I was in 7th grade. I was the tallest kid in my class.
Yeah.
Or one of the few, right?
Yeah.
And so I felt the same way. I thought I was gonna, but I was terrible at basketball. I was terrible at sports. We had ultimate frisbee. I remember we did that. I was good at like blocking. That was
for ultimate frisbee.
Yeah.
You have pretty big hands though, don't you?
Yeah, my arm length, my arm span is longer than my height. So
wingspan.
My wingspan, yeah. So I'm like actually, it's hard for me to buy shirts and sweaters that are like just medium. Like I have to get an extra large if I want my arms to fit the clothing.
Bobby's a freak.
So I normally buy medium, and then I'll just have to live with my arms sticking out of, like right now. This sweater is ridiculous, but I have other stuff underneath here that just like sticks.
For those of you who can't see, Bobby's stretching out, and his sleeves are basically at his elbows.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like you just kind of like folded them up. You know,
I have long arms. Like I can basically touch my knees like without bending over.
Yeah, that's
bending
important.
Down.
That's important. Sean, given that you're in education and you also have you're married and have a kid, right? Now, if you had to give the pros and cons of the education system in Korea versus the U.S., not even versus, but what, like, I don't want to say would you raise your kid here or there, but like, what are some things that you would like?
I see what you're getting at. Yeah, I can answer that. I think the good thing about Korea is that there's a very high standard, and everyone places education as a priority.
Right.
So, like, that means everyone respects the school, respects the teachers, and there's a certain just priority that you like. Everyone gives that support to their kids. Like, if I need to learn this, and most families, if they have the means, they will put that and invest it into their kids.
Right.
The problem is it's just too much.
Right.
That turns into competition because every family is doing the same thing.
Right.
And they're all kind of competing with each other.
Because that family is doing, that kid's going to a famous hakwon in Taechidong. I need to put my kid in that hakwon too. Doesn't that happen a lot? It
happens a lot. Like my daughter is going to be in first grade in March. And my wife and I decided that we're not going to put her into an English hakwon because we can just do that at home,
right?
Because we both speak English, and we both taught English before,
right?
And so we want to spare her at least that aspect, but she still has to go to like piano. She's taking swimming lessons and Chinese and math.
Wow!
Right? This is as a first grader.
Yikes!
Right? That's just a Hakwons that she.
Yeah, those are just those are just like supplemental programs after school.
And is that a must though, or what? Why does she have to go to do all these things?
For one reason, all her peers are.
Okay.
Right.
All her peers are, and so at a certain point, if you don't do it, once you do put her into a hakwon system, she's going to be far behind. Right. And some of these parents, like, they put their kids. This is not a joke. I heard that some parents try to get their kids to read at a 6th grade level before they get into first grade.
Wow.
Well, that's wow. Okay. I'm like, for me, like, if and when I had kids, I want to have. I think I'm more of.
You mean when you have kids?
Yeah, when I have kids. Yeah. When I have kids, I want to have them decide as much as I'm gonna steer them, obviously, as much as I can. But like for me, college, in my opinion, was a waste of my time because I wanted to.
For you,
yeah, for me, college just made me like. It was just too stressful. I wasn't a good studious student. Like, I wanted to do music. Every chance I got, I was practicing my guitar or writing songs. But because I grew up around other Korean Americans, and I saw how important it was for Korean kids to go to college because of the sacrifices their parents made to move to the States, there was this kind of thing. There was this unspoken, thing that if you didn't go to college, you were kind of wasting your parents' energy and time and their sacrifices. So
if your kid goes, Dad, I want to be a musician.
Yeah.
But see, here's the thing: a lot of these what do you call it, like boy band members to just solos acts here in Korea, a lot of them have gone to like art colleges or art like schools, right? And so would you put them through that direction, or would you be like, you know what, screw it, first of all let's see if you're any good?
Yeah, I mean, if they were terrible, if they wanted to be musicians, and I could see that they had talent, then I would definitely support them.
Right.
I wouldn't force college on them or university, based on what direction they want to go with music. If they weren't talented, I would tell them, and I would say it's not.
You suck.
You have to study.
What about you, Shauna? What if your kid came up to you and was like, "Appa, I want to be a comedian"?
I'd be like, okay, watch these videos of Danny Cho and don't do that. No.
I knew it.
I don't know. I also support, like, I do right now. I'll tell you that I don't want to push my daughter too much and push her into this Hakwon system so much, because what happens is that a lot of kids, it kills their intellectual curiosity, and everything they learn, it just turns into like a game that they have to win.
Right.
And that's not a bad way to think about it, because that's the way the system's rigged in Korea, right? It's just like, I got to get the highest score, but there's no intellectual curiosity. It's just about how do I get this right? How do I get this question right? It's only about that,
as opposed to learning
right
why this is.
And the thing is, a lot of kids, they may have no passion for the subject, but they're just so conditioned and disciplined, and maybe it's beat into them. I don't know, because I've definitely had students where, like, I can't tell if they're disinterested and just very well disciplined, or if they really just like to learn, right? And they hide it really well. And in most cases, like from the students that I've gotten to know, it's the former. They don't really care about the material.
Yeah.
They are just so conditioned through all the schooling they've had and like the competition that they've experienced that they just feel like, oh, I just have to do it. And I think that to a degree is good.
Right.
Because, in life, that's good, right? In life, you're going to be put in situations where you don't like doing it, but you just have to do it.
Right.
And it's good that you can adapt and do it well. And I think that mindset is good, but not too much. And Korea definitely does it too much.
Yeah. I mean, what I've noticed, and I didn't go through this system, but what I've noticed is that Koreans are amazing at memorization, right?
Yes.
But what they are kind of, I don't want to say lacking, but what I see a lot is that when it comes to the creativity side, there's a lot of times I see some lack. They're lacking. For example, when I see like the comedians, they'll write their whole script, like word per word, right? And then they will just memorize. They'll face a wall and just like for days upon days, just memorize pretty much the speech, right? And I tell them, you can't do that because you think that this is your punchline and you're going to get a laugh here, but what if nobody laughs, Or what if as you're doing your monologue, you fumble some words? Then all of that just comes crashing down, right? So I go, you need to have some more flexibility than just sheer memorization, But it's amazing. And, matter of fact, even like the multiplication tables, Koreans have a song. It's sing-songy, but I didn't learn it sing-songy in English.
I didn't learn that either.
Yeah. So, they like if that's why if I was in a variety show and they play those games like, like 5 times 6, oyuk, right? And you have to say it fast. My brain hears the oyuk, changes it to 5 times 6. The answer is 30, translates it back into 30, and then come out. So it's going to take a long time. So, a lot of our listeners, Sean, are actually Koreans here. Like, people that want to learn English, right? So if you had a tip as an educator for for Koreans to learn English properly, not to take a test, but to speak it.
Move to Canada.
That's
too much gun violence in America these days.
Yeah. Move to Canada?
Move to Canada.
The best way to study English, would be just immerse yourself around other English speakers.
Yeah, I can't stress this. Like if you immerse yourself in some kind of circumstance where you are just forced, whether you like it or not, to express yourself in English.
Right.
You'll get better.
Because you have to. So basically, what if they're not balling? What if they ain't got money to move to another country? You can't tell them to just hang out in Itaewon all the time. right. Like,
man, I don't know.
Because I'm number one. A lot of people said for me to learn Korean, I have to date a Korean girl, right? And I haven't dated a Korean girl, and there are a lot of Korean Americans that I've dated, but that Sunung teacher, she's Korean. My Korean didn't get better. Like, her English got better.
You got to fight more.
Yeah.
So we gotta.
My Korean, I'm great at chansori. It's the same way my wife thought early on in our relationship that her English was going to get much better because she's dating me.
Yeah.
But no, her English just hasn't gotten much better.
So I think it's a myth. It's a myth that if you date somebody from a foreign country, that you will pick up that language, right?
No, I don't think it's a complete myth. I think the first few girls that I dated when I moved here, I think I improved, but I was semi-serious. I think I got better because we fought so much, and she would just this stream of Korean, and she's when girls get angry they speak loud and fast, and I had no idea what they're angry about, and I'd be like, "Huh?" And
나 한국말 못해.
So I gotta pick fights with Korean people.
My wife and I, we don't fight very. Actually, we haven't fought many times. So that's probably why my Korean stinks.
But your Korean got a lot better though, Bobby.
Yeah, when I first got it, I can at least argue with a cab driver and tell him he's going the wrong way. I'm very proud of that. But I wouldn't have,
잘못 가고 있어요, 아저씨.
아저씨, 이쪽으로 왜 가세요? Anyway.
I don't know because the problem is if you don't have any money, you can't just watch TV or something like that. You might get some idioms and stuff like that, but that's just input,
right?
If you're not there, doing some form of speaking or writing,
right,
then it's all gonna just dissolve.
Yeah, I believe that when you want to learn, if you want to learn English, I think speaking conversation is probably the best way. Like some people are good at grammar, for example, but you can be grammatically incorrect and it still be, I think instead of grammar, I think people should focus more on the conversation aspect of it because I think you'll grow faster than wondering why to put this adjective here and this adverb there, right? So
yeah, if anything, the internet has made that worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially the YouTube comments. I'm like, wow.
YouTube comments, the memes.
Yes.
None of it makes grammatical sense.
What you talk about? Well, it's time to wrap it up. Sean, thank you for being our guest and enlightening us and our listeners regarding kind of the education system here in Korea and your views on it.
Feel like... Well, no, seriously, but thank you for having me on such a boring topic. I rarely talk about what I do because it's usually very boring to people to learn about or to have any insight about the education system.
I don't think it's boring. I actually more and more I need to learn about these things because we want to start to have a family.
Oh, I do too.
So.
And even I work in the industry, and I have to have conversations with my wife about, what are we going to do about our daughter? I'll be like,
Oh, I have one more before we go. I have one more tip for not a tip, but one more question. What is like a telltale sign for parents that this is a good hakwon?
Ooh, what's a telltale sign that this is a good hakwon?
Because okay, so I was reading some bloggers. They're former English teachers, native speakers here, and then they were putting up their horror stories of being an English teacher here. Like one woman, she got criticized for her penmanship, and so for the first month of working every day after class, she had to write her ABCs on the chalkboard, and the head teacher would come and critique the curve of her T's.
Wow.
And things like that. That same teacher at that hakwon, apparently there was one person that walked around and peeked inside classes, and she was the official smile checker, meaning that if the teacher did not smile and seem happy and enthusiastic to a certain degree, then she would be reprimanded in front of her kids. So like, to me, that's kind of like a crazy system,
I think it's hard to find one particular thing, because, like, the micromanaging style, it at least shows that there's some centralized management that's paying attention to everything, and a lot of places don't do that at all. Right. So it's good that they're monitoring and like paying attention to what people are doing, but maybe focus on something more relevant than like
how to dot an I,
curvature of your T's. Energy level is important because these kids are tired. They've already been through school, and they're sitting there. And one interesting thing I tell a lot of people is, like, or new teachers, is that like you might be the teacher and you might be the expert in the room, but the kids are the expert of hakwons because they've been going to hakwons their whole life. And most kids, right? Most kids will know in the first 10 minutes whether you're a good teacher or not, because they've had so much experience.
Right.
So honestly, if you're a parent, just ask your kid.
Oh, really?
Like most kids will know within the first couple of minutes whether this is a good teacher or not. Right? They might not be the best at that particular thing, but you can tell if someone's good or bad right away. Like if you see teachers on their first day, they a lot of times they look like they're about to have a panic attack. Because they've been trained to do this, and like, am I doing this right? Is everyone paying attention to me? Am I not funny enough? And they're so self-conscious that they can't think about their job, like just the main thing about what to communicate and get through that day. Right. And I think, oh man.
So the sign basically is like just sign up for 1 month and then see and ask your kid, so how's your teacher doing? Because apparently, like, like the kids will like rat out the teacher to their parents to be like, yo, this person's not that good, or this person did this, or what I mean? Obviously you can't pass out in class or whatnot, but
that happens all the time.
That
happens all the time. One more thing I would say is that, like, if you look at a class and the kids are just looking at the teacher the whole time, that's usually not a good sign, because it means that the teacher is very charismatic, but it means that they're not focusing on the material. They're just lecturing. And if you're just lecturing, and they're not applying anything to like some task at hand, then whatever they're being lectured is going to be lost.
Okay.
So pay attention to whatever's being lectured, but there needs to be a time in that class where something's being applied and they're doing it.
Okay. All right. So okay. I think this is very important for future parents. Know these tips because, hakwons can't be cheap, right?
No, certainly not.
They can't be cheap, right? So, well, thanks for the tip, Sean, and thank you for coming in as a guest, Sean.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Sean.
Everybody, thank you for listening. If you have questions or comments, please email us at peninsulapod@gmail.com. And once again,